Alright, beginning on alternative number 4 here, I have my access file opened up for Slante subset. I'm going to come over to the Create tab here and going to do Query Design. All looks good to me. Go to SQL View, and then it's going to have me type those several lines that are in the instructions there, so I'll spare you some time. Alright, I have it all typed up here. Looks alright to me, and is alright good enough? We're going to find out. Yeah, it worked. Okay, cool. After that, we're going to save the query. Oh, first, yeah. Right click here on the query, save it as Slante merger. Or sorry, just merge. And then we're going to export to Excel file. Use that tip that you mentioned. Looks all good to me. Oops. Come over here to Excel, data, get data from database, access, what location, this location. Should give me the I'm gonna find out which one's which. Well, I think it's just this one actually. Should give me a very similar spreadsheet to what we had seen before. Yeah, pretty much. See here though that it is not joined with those two other tabs that we had seen in the previous alternatives. That's just because I went through Access and I did it through that method. And that concludes alternative 4. Okay, picking up where we left off here, we're going to go past the alternatives and start in part 3 where we're performing an analysis using pivot tables and queries. First step of that is going to be open up a file that we had created during part 2, so from one of the alternatives. I'm going to open up, let me see here. Going to do this one, sure. Already got it open here. We're going to come over here into in the Excel spreadsheet that we have open. We're coming over here to the Insert tab, Pivot Table again. We're going to make sure to have this box down here checked, add this data to the data model, click OK. After creating the pivot table, it opens up a new sheet here, and we're given the pivot table fields section over here to the right hand of the screen. We're going to start by making our first pivot table, which is going to have our sales order date down here in the columns area. Oh, my bad. Columns area. Load up there. And we just want the date. So we're going to scroll down here, uncheck quarter, uncheck the parentheses year. We just want the month. Next, we're going to go and insert product description into the rows section. find that. There she is. 2 rows. And last, sales order quantity sold will be in the values section. There we go. And we only want the first 4 months of the year. Go to column labels, uncheck November and December. That way we have January through April visible, and that's it. And this pivot table here is just showing you the quantity sold of each product. And it's not showing the product numbers like you might normally see. These are the product descriptions that we had imported over from one of those 2 tables into the sales subset table. That's why we're able to see the descriptions here. To finish this part, we're just going to save this spreadsheet. This is our folder that we have made. I'm going to name it Slante Pivot. Save. To wrap up part 3, we're going to be going into Access now. So I'm going to go ahead and open up, where was it? This guy right here. Coming over here to create, query design. We're going to go into SQL View and then type in what we're given here in the instructions. I'll save you some time by pausing the video. Code has been typed. Let's see if it works. Sales order quantity sold. Give me 1 sec. And so after running that code, we're given a very similar query to the pivot table that we had seen in the Excel spreadsheet. Our product description here is in the first column with each product description in 1 row, and then the total sales sold, or sales order quantity sold is here in the second row with each quantity. And we're going to save that query. Over here. And that concludes part 3. So for part 4 here, we have a couple of questions that I'm going to answer. Question 5 is, if the owner of Slante wishes to identify which product sold the most, how would you make this report more useful? And as you could see with the pivot table we had created in the Excel spreadsheet, that was only displaying the first few months of the year. We could easily pull up a monthly analysis like we had done, a quarterly analysis, or even an annual analysis. Whether he wants to do a short-term or a long-term display of product that's being sold, we have the flexibility to do that thanks to our pivot table. For question 6, it asks, if you wanted to provide more detail, what other attributes would be useful to add as additional rows or columns to your report, or what other reports would you create? And so I was running through the attributes that had been pulled from those other 2 tables that we had, and I think if I were a manager of Slante, I would be wondering what product is selling successfully in what regions. I want to know if we need to ship more product over there, if demand is being met. I also want to know, let me see, we could look at prices and see if that has any sort of relationship to how much is being sold. And then also we could look at potentially looking at customers and try to figure out how to best sell our product to those customers in higher quantities. Those are a couple of attributes that I could throw into the table here, and that could definitely be analyzed by a manager. For question number 7, part of part 5 that I have pulled up over here, it asked you to write a brief paragraph about how you would interpret the results of your analysis in plain English. I'll try to be as plain and as English as possible. I'm not going to write a paragraph, but I'm just going to tell you right over here. So I threw on a couple more attributes over here in the pivot table. I did the, what did I do? I actually just added one here. It was the customer city. And so we can see here that Imperial Stouts, IPA, Pale Ales, and Stouts, Wheat. I'm going to take this back. No, it was Stouts, IPA, and Imperial Stouts appear to be doing the best, with Imperial IPA just suffering a lot compared to the rest of the product. With Customer City pulled up, we can look at what regions are selling the best. So maybe here we can just cut product to Memphis and Omaha for the Imperial IPA. Here for the Imperial Stout, one of the best-selling products that we have. Let me see. Definitely shorten up shipments out to Arlington and Cedar Rapids. I guess those could be designated to a better city that is going to sell more over here, like Columbia. Columbia just sold pretty much all their supply just right off the bat there in January. And that same goes for all the rest of the products. You can make choices like that as a manager, just with the simple input of one more attribute here on this pivot table. I think that's very useful. Now, I haven't had to deal with visualization techniques in a while, maybe not since sophomore or junior year. For question 8 here, it's describe a way you would present these data as a graph or chart. So I would probably go with a bar chart showing each product here in like different colors, and then displaying them for each city, how well they are selling. And that might be a lot of information there, but I think it would be a little bit easier to digest. You don't have to scroll through here just to see the bigger picture. You could put it all on one chart, and it would be pretty straightforward, give you quite a lot to break down and digest. So that's how I would display it. And that ends part 5, and that concludes lab 2-2. Appreciate you listening, and I hope that was helpful.